Okay, we'll start part two of our discussion of redirection by picking up with the command where we left off last time. Recall last time we were beginning to talk about appending the redirection to a file. And again, keep in mind what our objective here is. We've looked at a single redirection symbol, as in this example here. This takes the output of this command and puts it inside of this text file. We also saw earlier in the last video that when we use a single redirection symbol, it will overwrite anything that is in the text file. But what if we don't want to delete everything that's currently in the text file? What if we just want to add the output to the text file and keep anything that's still in there? That's when we need to use the two redirection symbols, or what we refer to as appending, which simply means we're going to take this output from this ls for this long listing of the root of the file system and append it to the bottom of the lsout.txt file. So let's demonstrate that one more time as we get started with this particular session. So if I do ls-l, I'm going to do the root directory, and actually let's kind of clean up our output here. I'm just going to do a simple listing of the root of the file system, do a single redirect symbol to lsout.txt, and hit enter. Now using my less program, let's just take a look at the file and see what's in there. So hopefully you're beginning to see that these directories that we're seeing here are the ones that are at the root or the very top of the file system. So hit the Q key to exit out of the less program. And now I want to redirect some additional output. So let's say I want to do a listing of, let's see here. Let's do a listing of my home directory and append it. This is still a redirection, but again, we're adding it to the file instead of deleting what's in there. Now let's use my less program again to see the contents of this file. Now, before we move on here, let me just draw a distinction. This is oftentimes a point of confusion. The ls command lets me see what is in a directory, or what you may call a folder. Same thing. The ls command lists the contents of what is in a directory or folder. The less command is a program that lets me see the contents of a text file. It does not show me what is in a folder, it shows me what's in the file. So, using the less command, lsout.txt. Okay, so now we scroll down, and here we begin to see that long listing of my home directory. Now notice I have it as well as still having the listing of the contents of the root of the file system. So it added the output to this file. It did not delete what was in there. And that's our appending. Now, I'm going to clear my screen just to kind of give us some new real estate to work with. And let's scroll down here and begin to look at this idea of standard error. And what can I do with standard error? Okay. Well, let's go back to the terminal window for just a moment, and let's generate an error message. I go ls/tmpx. It says no such file or directory. So we know we don't have a directory called tmpx at the root of the file system. That does not exist, so that gives us this error message to tell us that. So if I do ls redirect ls error.txt and hit enter, it says cannot access /tmp no such file or directory. Now, what's happened here? Interesting situation. So let's do the less command. There's nothing in the file. Now let's go back and look at our command. The redirect symbol by itself only redirects standard output. What is this message? This message is standard error. It's an error message, or what we call standard error. So a simple single redirect symbol does not redirect an error message out to this file. So we've got to change something. We've got to modify that. Well, let's see. Is it a double arrow? Will that append do that? No, I still get the error message to the screen, and I still don't have anything inside of this file. Well, let's check out our textbook here. There must be something special we need to add to this. And here we see it. Notice before when I said that these messages have a numerical value associated with them. Let's go back to our text editor. Standard error has the number 2 associated with this. And now look at this redirect symbol. To redirect standard error, I need to use a 2, then the redirect symbol. Let's go back to my terminal. And let's try that same command again. But this time, let's add a 2 in front of the redirect symbol. Hit the enter key. I don't see any standard output to the screen or standard error to the screen. Since I know that this is going to be a short message, I'm just going to use the cat command. And we see that we get this error message is now located inside of this text file. Keep in mind what I've done with the cat command. I have simply told the computer to let me see what's in this text file. And this is the contents of the text file here. It's got a single line in it, that error message. Well, let's do another message. Let's say I want a cat tmpx.txt. Then do another redirect. Okay. And now let's look in that file again. And now it has overwritten the file and put in no such file or directory for this tempx.txt file. So we know that neither that directory nor that file exist. And we see that the 2 redirect symbol will redirect that standard error message out to the text file. So a simple redirection symbol will not work. I have to place the 2 in front of it. Your textbook will go into some detail about this notion of a file descriptor and where that number value comes from. Now let's scroll down just a bit. This next section tells us that we can redirect both the standard output and the standard error messages to a single file. Redirect standard output messages and standard error messages to a file. So let's go back with that ls command that we used earlier. ls/tmp/tmpx. We know that this will generate an error message, this will generate good output. Well, let's use a single redirect symbol here. Okay. So we've redirected the output to ls.out.txt. We can see that if we run the ls program and open up that lsout.txt file, and there's the contents. That's the output of the ls command on the /tmp directory. But we also see the error message went to the screen. Well, I could go in and put a 2 here, but that redirects just the error messages. Let's cat that lsout file so we can see what's in there. So this time we only set the error message to that text file. What can we do then to send both? Maybe I want to capture both pieces of information. Let's go back and look at our example in our textbook. Here we see a 2 redirect &1. Now that's not a real obvious thing to type in to achieve this objective here, but just take it for what it is. We know that the 2 redirect, it does refer to standard error. Well, this &1 is, just think of it at this point as a way of pointing back to this file. Okay? Let's go back to our terminal. So 2 redirect &1. Hit the enter key. Notice I get no output of any type or error of any type to the screen. I cat this lsout file. So here I see the error message ls cannot access tmpx, no such file or directory, and then I see the listing of the /tmp file. So I've redirected both the standard error and the standard output to this file using a single redirect in the middle, like we traditionally would do to redirect standard output, and at the end a tack on this to redirect &1. Again, not the most friendly switches there that you'll ever see. Now let's scroll down and look at this idea of dev null. Think of dev null. If you've had a routing and switching class, you may have referred to this as the bit bucket. But when we send something to dev null, it in effect sends it to nowhere. So it is removed or from the computer, or it kind of turns into nothing. You can just think of it as disappearing. So if you just want to get rid of stuff, sending something to /dev/null in effect deletes it from the system, or gets rid of it, doesn't display it anywhere of any meaning or value to it. So going back to our example that we worked with a while ago, actually let me go back to this for just a moment, break down this command. In this example command they're using here, we're doing a long listing of the bin user directory like we did before, and this is simply going to redirect what? Standard error to this no place. Okay, so let's use this example, but we're going to do it here. Okay. So we're running an ls on this directory and this directory, and I'm going to redirect the standard error messages to dev null. Hit enter. Notice I do not see any error messages on the screen. I simply see the standard output for this ls/tmp. What happened to the error message? The error message was sent to /dev/null, which is saying send it to no place. So it gets rid of it for us. So this is a good way to get rid of any either output or error message that you would not want displayed on the screen. Typically you see this used more so from a programming standpoint. We've looked briefly at the cat command, but there is one additional option we can use with the cat command that can be helpful. And I just want to scroll down until we find it. They may not introduce it in your text, but I want to show it to you because this can be an extremely valuable tool with the cat command, a very valuable option. Now let's go back. Let's look at that lsout.txt file we looked at before. Not much in it at this point. But let's change that and let's do ls of the root directory. Matter of fact, let's just do a long listing of the root directory and redirect it to lsout.txt. If we cat that file, we see the contents of it. But there's an extra little switch or option we can use with the cat command that helps us to sort of distinguish lines. And it's a -n, which stands for number. Now what's happened here is it has numbered the lines of the file. Now this does not make a change to this lsout.txt file. These numbers that is added to each line are purely for the use of the person viewing the file in the cat command. One of the ways this is most helpful is if you're troubleshooting some sort of script that you've written, and it would be helpful to see what line number is causing the problem. A lot of times when you're troubleshooting scripts, for example, when you run it, you will get an error message of some type and it will say some sort of problem at line 26. Well, 26 isn't too bad, but if it says some sort of problem at line 226, being able to number the lines in the file can be an extremely useful tool to you. At this point, we're going to stop part 2 and move on to part 3.